Job's got the questions, digging so sharp, peeling back layers, hitting the heart. Sharp Shoot Podcast, blowing your mind. Every topic, one of a kind.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm all right. How you doing?
Great. Yeah, beautiful day here in Arizona. You're in Nashville, right?
Yes, I'm actually sitting in my motorhome in my backyard because my dogs tend to be a little yappy when I'm trying to do this shit. So I have a tour bus sized motorhome, and I'm sitting in the kitchen area of it and having some coffee and just knocking my interviews out.
Nice. Is that a way for you to kind of unwind? Is take that motorhome and go like somewhere where there's like off grid, like no Wi-Fi, no internet, and just like unwind and unplug?
Well, actually, I've pretty much all the comforts of home on this thing. I bought it in 2019 when I left the Daisies so that I would have something to comfortably get my band to and from shows and also take little timeouts with my wife and my dogs and just go different places, whatever. Unfortunately, 2019 and 20, I didn't do a lot of stuff with my band here in the States. It was all overseas. So this basically sat around useless for that. But there's been quite a few occasions where my wife and I, like usually after a tour, I will get a hold of my wife. My mother-in-law is getting up there in age, so we'll go down, we'll pack the dogs up. My wife will put some clothes on this thing and put some food in the refrigerator. Here, let me see. I don't know if you can see this.
Oh yeah, that's nice. Wow.
Yeah, no, it's pretty crazy, dude. That's the driving area.
Oh yeah.
And then you can see I have a full kitchen. It's messy right now because we're actually putting stuff on here for a trip that we're going to take in a few weeks. But I have 2 theater chairs, this kitchen area. It's like a table. I've got a dishwasher. I guess they call it a microwave convection oven. So I can literally cook like a meatloaf in that thing, whatever. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 TVs on this thing. 2 full bathrooms. Each one's got a shower. And then all the way in the back, there is a washer and dryer for doing laundry. So we will, which we're like I said, we're in about 2 weeks, we're going to head down. My wife's family is coming over from England to visit her mother in Florida. So we're going to go down to Florida for about a week with her family. And then on the way home, I am hitting a bike rally in Panama City, Florida. It's called Thunder Beach. So it's kind of like Sturgis, but on the beach.
Are you playing there, or are you just there just for fun?
No, I'm just going down. I got a couple buddies like Marty Fredrickson. He rides. Doug rides as well. Unfortunately, Doug can't come to this one. But I think Marty may go. I've got another friend, Wes. He rides. And then I've got some friends from Mississippi that are going. A good buddy of mine, Daniel Smith. He's the one that told me about it. He goes, man, I'm going to do this Thunder Beach thing, dude. You should try and come down. And I was already in Florida, so I told my wife, I go, you know what? Fuck it. On the way home, let's hit this bike rally and hang out for a few days and see how much trouble we can get into. So I'm towing a couple bikes down, and we're just going to go and just live the outlaw life for a couple days down in Panama City, Florida.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Do you get like recognized at stuff like that? Because I mean, I can understand other places, maybe people don't know that scene or whatever. But that sounds like if maybe you might have some fans there. Like would they harass you or ask for pictures and stuff?
I don't know. I mean, I got to be honest with you, Chuck. Like, I played Sturgis. Obviously, I played with Motley at this place called Buffalo Chip, and I played the Full Throttle Saloon multiple times with Rat. I believe I played there with Union, but I played it with the Dead Daisies as well. Um, and I don't really go like when you're playing. It's like you're at the hotel, you wait. The crew guys go, okay, we're good for sound check. You go over, and then you get tucked into a trailer or a dressing room area, and you just kind of sit there and wait until you're ready to play. Um, so I've never really gone and had the experience of being able to just go and enjoy, because they always have bands playing and music and stuff like that. So I've never really had the opportunity to go and enjoy it as a spectator. So I don't know. Um, I'm not really that worried about it though, because, in the grand scheme of things, I think that I've always been kind of one of these, uh, for lack of a better term, artists that people, you'll say the name, you go, oh, hi, I'm John. Oh, John what? John Corabi. And they kind of cock their head and they go, hmm, why does that name sound familiar? You know what I mean? So like,
Right.
I've never been that guy. Like on occasion, I will go to a restaurant or a bar, and a person or two may come up to me and go, "Hey, are you John Corabi?" And I'll go, "Yeah," and they're like, "Oh, fuck," But it's not like a crazy, Nikki Sixx, Vince Neil, Steven Tyler, Michael Jackson. I've just been kind of like this dude that floats under the radar. You know what I mean?
Even when you're on like let's say like when you do the Monsters of Rock cruise, like those are your fans, like a lot of those people, like you're the mayor of the Monsters of Rock, like then you're walking around that cruise, I'm assuming a lot of people are asking for pictures and stuff.
Well, I used to be the mayor, but I've been demoted. So, yeah, I'm not allowed to do them anymore. I've been banned. But
Wait, I didn't hear about you got banned.
yeah, I'm not allowed to do them anymore. But it's
Well,
you know
how
it's
what did you
it's a long story, dude. It's
I got time, I
unfortunate.
got 22 more minutes.
Nah, my it's just a real. It's you know what? It's just a stupid. You know uh political whatever. It is what it is. So
Hmm.
unfortunately, this guy will not be doing the Monsters of Rock cruises anytime in the near future, as much as I love doing them.
Hmm.
But yeah, I would go on the boat, but I always had kind of a theory about the thing. you know um I've had a few friends that did them, and I remember talking to Bobby Blotzer about this. Like he was dreading. He's like, ah, fuck, I'm going to be trapped on a boat with all the fans, and I'm like, you know what, dude? Honestly, my wife and I would always get on the boat, take our luggage immediately to our room, drop it off in our room, and then immediately go to the pool deck bar. And then I would sit there, and the first day of the cruise, um, like I was constantly, people would come up and they go, "Hey, dude, can I get a photo with you?" But they were always really pretty polite about it. Like if I was talking to my wife, they would wait till I came up for air, and then they would go, "Oh, hey, John, can I trouble you real quick for a photo?" And I'd stand up. My wife would take the photo, and then everybody would go about their business. And I told them, I said, man, if you just make yourself available, like the first day of the cruise, it's going to be it's going to be a lot of photos and signing shit. But then after that, like I could literally, by the second, third day, I could literally walk completely naked from the front of the boat to the back of the boat, and nobody would fuck with me. They'd be like, "Oh, hey, dude, what's up? Great show last night," da da da, whatever, and it was fine.
Hmm.
So I always enjoyed doing those, and it was kind of like old home week. It was kind of like a family reunion, seeing a bunch of people you hadn't seen for a year. You know what I mean? And really getting a chance to sit down and talk with them and see how their life was going. And they'd ask how you were doing. How's Debbie? And how's Ian, your son? And, you know, and it was, it's funny now. Like I go anywhere I go. Now everybody just wants to know how my granddaughters are. You know what I mean? Like, because Ian posts things about him, and I've posted, and so they're just like, how the granddaughters? They're, oh my God, they're so cute, and God, they're growing up so fast, and it's like, yeah, 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 cool, whatever. I kind of enjoyed doing them, the cruises, and it was really only work the first day, and then after that, it was nothing.
Bless you.
Sorry, I'm dealing with allergies right now. It's like,
It's
oh,
that time
fuck.
of year. Yeah. Okay. It's not
Oh
just
my
me. I
God,
woke
yeah.
up today and I was like, oh, I can't breathe. What's going on? It's in the air.
Yeah, I literally got home from Europe about a week and a half ago. And the following, I got home about 1 o'clock in the morning. I went to bed and I woke up the next day and I was sick as a dog I'm literally just getting over it now. And I'm still a little congested, but whatever. It's all good.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyways, but yeah. So new album you got coming out here with the Dead
Yes.
Daisies, the blues covers. But I'm guessing that wasn't your idea to do blues because you're more of a Aerosmith guy, right? I mean, those are your. I mean, I know you like other stuff, but Aerosmith and Zeppelin and Beatles, those would be like if you were going to do a cover album, it would be those three bands.
No, but this is, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. Um, you are right. With those three bands are probably the biggest influences on my writing and where I'm at today. But if you think about where they came from,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? And it's funny because I just did a interview earlier, and the guy kind of asked the same question, and I said, the crazy thing about the blues is that is purely an American made uh, art form. And but Americans didn't appreciate it until it got filtered down. And what I say by that is these historians were recording this stuff, and these record companies like Sun Records and Stax Records and what was the one in Chicago, Checkers, uh they did these albums, and they somehow made their way through merchant marines and military guys over to England. And then all these bands that I grew up listening to in the 70s, bands like Zeppelin, Aerosmith, Humble Pie, Foghat, they all took these songs and reworked them and made these unbelievable recordings out of these songs, and then brought it back to America, and we were like, holy shit, like, for example, when the levee breaks by Led Zeppelin, if you look at that song, everybody's like, it's the closing song on Zeppelin 4, and what an epic song, and rightfully so. Led Zeppelin's contribution to that song musically made it just this powerhouse of awesomeness. But when you dig and you realize the history, the lyrics and the melody that Robert Plant is singing was actually written in 1929 by Memphis Minnie, and there was another songwriter, and they wrote that song about a flood of the Mississippi River in the South, 1927, that killed thousands of people and wiped out all these communities. And they wrote the song When the Levee Breaks about the flood in 1927. They wrote the song in 29. Zeppelin found it, took it, and they put their music to the song and just made it this powerhouse ending of Zeppelin 4. Same with In My Time of Dying, was also an old blues song called Jesus Make My Dying Bed. Um, you know, Foghats, I Just Want to Make Love to You is an old blues song that they just made their own. Terraplane Blues, they did a Robert Johnson song. Um, there was so many. Hold on, I got to find you. I lost you. Where'd you
You
go?
froze. I don't know what happened.
No, it's this.
I can hear
Uh,
you just fine.
yeah, I know. Let me see if I could find this. Wait, where did you go? There you are.
Oh, yeah, here we are.
It's weird when I get another call, it freezes everything.
Oh, okay.
Um, so all these bands that I grew up listening to, they introduce. I'm not a blues aficionado by no stretch of the imagination, but we kind of this became a happy accident with us doing this thing because we were actually recording the Light 'Em Up record, and we wanted to go down to Fame Studios in Muscle Shoals. There's a story there as well. If you listen to the last verse of Sweet Home Alabama by Skinnerd, he says, Muscle Shoals has got the Swampers. And then Netflix did a documentary on the whole Muscle Shoals sound a few years back, and we all watched it. We all saw it. And we were fascinated by it. So all of us at one point, we said to our manager, man, it'd be really great if we could ever fucking get down to like Muscle Shoals and hit one of those old studios. And
Oh, you froze again. Shit. I don't know if that's my internet. Oh, you're back? Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
so
The Muscle Shoals. Yeah, definitely. Legendary studio.
yeah, it was, and the thing that's weird about it, I'm sorry, this is a bit of a long answer,
Hmm.
but another reason why we wanted to go is because the first studio started, it was called Fame. The Swampers became like the legendary house band of that studio. A couple of those guys left and started another studio across town it was called Jackson Highway. Can't remember the address, but there's another Muscle Shoals studio. And then after that one became equally as famous, some of the guys came to Nashville and started a third studio, which is the studio that Marty Fredrickson bought when he came to Nashville, which we've been recording in for years. We did Make Some Noise there, we did Burn It Down there, and then Light 'Em Up was recorded there and at the other studio, Fame. So there was a bit of a history there as well. But when we went down, we were just kind of jamming and fucking around, and we'd take dinner breaks and then just start drinking and you know wine, whiskey, edibles, whatever was available, and we'd start jamming, and it was kind of like, well, what do you know? What do you want? What do I know? Blah blah blah. And it was all stuff like Crossroads or Born Under a Bad Sign, just like these standards. And Marty kept everything rolling, and we were listening back to it like, hey, this sounds pretty cool. So we decided, you know what, while we're here, let's fucking do a blues record as well. Now, the thing that our manager, when we talked with him about it, he goes, yeah, I think this is a great idea, but there's two things. Make sure you make it your own, which I think we accomplished. The second thing was try and keep songs that people are familiar with. So what we did was, it's like I could literally go through the list of songs that are on the record and tell you exactly where I heard them the first time. You know, Crossroads was Cream and Leonard Skinner. Uh, Born Under a Bad Sign was Cream and Pat Travers. Uh, like obviously Walking the Dog is, fucking Rufus Thomas, but also Aerosmith. That's the first time I ever heard of that song. When I first heard Walking the Dog, I thought it was an Aerosmith song, but it's a cover. So we decided to keep that whole kind of mindset, but our mantra was, you know, very similar to what Zeppelin did with When the Levee Breaks or In My Time of Dying. We said, all right, how
Hello? Oh, I lost you.
everything's working
Yeah.
here.
Oh, here we go. Okay. Sorry.
Um, you know, so uh, we kind of kept it, what would Zeppelin do? You know what I mean? So we just kind of tried to take the songs in a little bit of a different direction.
Yeah.
So, a blues purist may go, oh, fuck, man, they're using Marshalls and they're using this, and, it's a bit aggressive, but even back in the day, I mean, I remember when Zeppelin first came out, a lot of people were fucking pissed at them for their take on these blues classics. Like, they were like, oh my God, they're fucking ruining them. They're bastardizing these songs. So we said, you know what, fuck it, we'll do the same thing. Who cares?
Yeah. Will you perform these live too, or is this just a one-off album and then that's the
No,
end?
we've actually been doing a couple of the songs. Last year when we were on tour, we did uh I'm Ready. Um and this last run we did in Europe, we did Crossroads because we had the single out.
Hmm.
But we did Crossroads and I'm Going Down, which again, I'm Going Down is, obviously it's a Freddie King song. Um, but I became aware of that through Jeff Beck, his version of it, so it's just honestly this blues thing, it was a happy accident, and it's our tip of the hat to, as you know, we've always done a tip of the hat to the bands we grew up listening to, but this is now our tip of the hat to the bands that influenced the bands that we grew up listening to.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
fun. That's cool. That's I mean, you've been in so many different bands over the years. One thing I wanted to ask you real quick though, because I know I only got a few minutes, but I've had you. This is like the third time I had you on, we never get to Union. I've never asked you a question of Union, and I had a bunch of questions for you from last time you're on about your book, and you mentioned in Union that I never knew that Nikki was the one that hooked you up with Bruce to start that band.
Well, I mean, I knew Bruce prior to that. My wife at the time was a hair and makeup artist for Niels Lozauer. So I had met Bruce through that, but then him and Nikki were really good friends. So, if Nikki had a birthday party for one of his kids or had a barbecue at his house, Bruce and his wife would be there all the time. I would be there, and we would sit and we would bullshit. So when the whole thing went down where they brought Vince back, um, I do know that uh, at some point, Nikki had called Bruce and put the bug in his ear and said, you know what, dude, like, you and Corabi are really into a lot of the same shit, like Zeppelin and Mountain and Cream and just all these uh old 70s legendary acts. Like I think you guys could write some cool shit together. Um so and then he actually called me and said the same thing. And we
Hmm.
are like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then Bruce called me and he's like, hey dude, you know, what are you doing? So I went down to his house and the funny thing about that whole situation with the union was Bruce and I were literally going through all of the same things at the same time.
Hmm.
We'd both lost huge gigs for one reason or another. His wife uh, decided that, you know, she needed to spread her wings and go in a different direction. Um, I had a girlfriend at the time who had decided that she needed some space to focus on her career. So we're literally sitting in a room and we're writing these songs about karma, love gone wrong, who am I? You know what I mean? And it was just really, I think Bruce and I were meant to do Union as fleeting and as brief as it was. It was therapeutic for both of us. Um, we never really split up. It wasn't that we didn't get along. We just weren't making any money. That band was a band that was writing. I thought the records were pretty cool,
Yeah.
but nobody was playing them. Like we literally could not get arrested
Hmm.
in America, which you know and I know. And if you're in the music industry, America that's the cash cow.
Right. Well, okay,
And
so I know we only got a couple more minutes, and then the other band I never got to ask you about, you wrote about in your book too, was the Brides of Destruction, which I think Nikki just posted about that and said this was a fun project. And I know that you left because you were cut out of the songwriting process, but like you never said like who cut you. Was it Nikki that cut you out, or was it Tracy, or was it when they brought the new singer in, or what?
it was just a weird situation. I don't know because I've talked to Nikki about it, in the past, and he said it was Tracy, but then I talked to Tracy, and Tracy said it was Nikki. So
Hmm.
I have no fucking idea, nor do I care. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, honestly, though, to be quite frank with you, like we were doing songs at a place called Clown Studios in Culver City with a buddy of ours, Steve-O. And we'd go in, we'd work up two or three songs, lay them down, and then everybody would go away and then come back and we'd work up two or three more. And, but it was weird. Like my beef about the whole thing was it was just all over the place.
Hmm.
And I know this doesn't make any sense because I love eclectic records,
Yeah, me too.
but to me, it was like it was more than eclectic. It was just weird. Like there was some songs like, Shut the Fuck Up was like uh it was almost borderline punk.
Hmm.
And then we had a ballad on there that just sounded like a fucking like a throwaway uh 80s ballad, you know what I mean? And then we had this one song called Life, which I thought was great. It sounded like, early Motley, Cheap Trick. It just had like this cool kind of snotty attitude, but it was a really cool song. And I thought that song was the most radio friendly song on the record. But it was the one song that London didn't sing.
Oh,
And
huh.
I was arguing, I'm going, wait a minute, like Scotty Coogan to this day, like I'm friends with Scotty. I see him all the time. And I'm like, dude, he sang his ass off on that track. It's Scotty Coogan singing. But
Hmm.
I went back and I'm like, hold on a minute. Like, this is our first fucking record. And it's like, you guys are saying that this lead singer is the greatest fucking lead singer you guys have ever worked with. But the one song that's got the biggest shot at radio, he's not singing, the drummer is.
Huh.
And it just, the whole thing was just like, and so
Oops. Froze
yeah.
again. Do you have to go at 12:30? I want to, unless you're.
No. I'm good.
Oh,
I'm
you're
good.
good. Okay, because I have a lot more questions for you. So,
No, that's fine.
oh, cool.
We can go a little longer.
Okay,
But
cool.
um, Bob Rock was going to produce the first record, and like it, it was almost like Bob Rock took whatever notes I had about the record and just he listened to the whole thing, all the demos, and almost verbatim went through song by song, and his critiques were very similar to what I had been saying the whole time.
Hmm.
And I think the rub when we were sitting there, it was me, Nikki, and Tracy. We had breakfast with Bob. He listened to the record and he did this whole thing. But then at the end of the meeting, he goes, I'm going to pass. I think you guys need to write some more.
Hmm.
And then he looked at me and Nikki. He goes, you guys need to write. And he looked at me and Nikki and he said, I know you two can do better than this.
Interesting.
And so I was like, okay, cool. We left. We're like, ah, well, that sucks. He doesn't really want to do the record. And then literally, like, it was like a day or two later, Nikki called me on the phone and he goes, hey, Crab, here's the deal. What's going to happen is, and now this is Nikki's words. He said, Tracy doesn't like writing with you. So Tracy and I are going to write the riffs. We're going to rehearse them up with Scott Coogan, the drummer.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to rehearse these up with Scotty, and then we'll bring you and London in, and we'll just teach you guys the parts. And at first, I was like, "All right, whatever. Okay, okay, cool." And I got to be honest with you, I was a little pissed. So I got off the phone, and then I thought about it for a few minutes, and now on top of everything with the record, I apologize at the length of my answer. On top of that, I was also going through a divorce, my second one. Uh, it was like all this weird shit was going on just with me, like money wise and divorces and lawyers and I sat and I thought about what Nikki said, and I just went, you know what, I'm not into this. Like I'm just going through the motions with this band. So I picked the phone back up. I called Nikki and I said, hey, Six, it's Crab. Listen, I thought about what you're doing, and you know what? I'm just gonna bail. I'm gonna I'm gonna take some time off, and I'm going in a different direction. Like if I can't contribute, I don't want anything to do with this scenario. And he was like, "Oh man, okay, well that sucks, dude." He understood though. And then, to be honest with you, if you read my book,
Yeah, this is when you became a truck driver.
yeah, I just said, you know what, I'm gonna go do something else for a little while. I need to clear my head.
But did you
And
also apply for Alanis Morissette, a job with her, but you didn't get it?
well, that was prior to this.
Okay.
That's how I found out my second wife was cheating on me.
The one where you had the pictures, it was the guy from Dope, and you said
Yes,
you're gonna give him a
yes,
Sicilian necktie. I was like, dude, that part of the book was wild.
yeah. I was like, it's a long story, but
How how do you get by that? Like, do you have to get releases from these people when you? I mean, because this is the truth, so they can't sue you unless it's you made it up, right?
pretty much.
Okay.
You know, it's like, and you know what, dude, sue me. I could use the press. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't really give a shit. You know what I mean? But it was funny. Like I did this. I was making a resume for Alanis Morissette.
Okay.
And anybody that knows me knows I am not computer literate. So I don't know what I did, but there was a laptop and I had a little office with a little studio and there was a laptop there connected to a printer. And I made this resume for Alanis Morissette. Her manager had called me and asked me to make a resume. So I said, all right, cool. So I made it. And then I went to send it or print it, like make a scan or something.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And I did this thing, and this window opened on the left side of the computer. It was like all this shit. And I'm looking, I go, what the fuck? And I click on it, and it was like a photo that my ex-wife had sent of herself, like nude, to this guy. And I'm like, what? And then so I went to the print. I printed it. And then I went to the next one. And it was like da 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 da. And then I found out that, you know, she was in Atlanta at a convention and she was only supposed to be gone a day or two. But then I found out all this shit. Like she had literally bought him a ticket to come down and meet her in Atlanta and yada, yada, yada. So I just said, all right, I'm going to have a little fun with this. So right now I'm sitting at home, just got home from tour, and I'm going to have a little fun with this. I called the hotel that she was in. She didn't answer the call when I asked for a room number. So I called back to the hotel and I asked the people at the front desk, could you please leave a message under my wife's door? Tell her there's an emergency at home and she needs to call home. So about 20 minutes later, my phone rang. I was in LA. She was in Atlanta. And it was probably, I don't know, 11, 12 o'clock in LA. And I just did it to fuck with her. But I called when she called. She goes, hey, I just got a note that there's an emergency. And is everything okay? And she's like baby dolling me. And, you know, what's up? And I said, oh, I'm just wanted to let you know I'm packing. I'm coming to Atlanta to hang out with you for a few days. And her voice was like, wait, hold on. Yeah, I'm really busy. Like I'm doing this convention. And I was just like, yeah, no, you're not. And I'm just letting you know that I'm on my way. And when I get there, I'm going to kill everybody in the room. And I hung the phone up.
Oh, that's such a
And they
crazy
checked out of the
story.
hotel. They went to a different hotel, and it was just cool. And I had the last laugh. So I just spent the whole rest of the weekend packing all their shit up and leaving it at the front door. So I had fun with that. That was awesome.
That's crazy because you think like you're more like the rock star. Like you think the rock stars are the horrors, you know, and they're the cheaters and all this stuff. Like, and then it's like you're like being the good guy. It was like your wife that was cheating that broke up that marriage. Like that's kind of like seems backwards to me.
Listen, you know what, dude? And in everybody's defense, like, you know, yeah, you're right. Usually it's the musician. But at the end of the day, dude, I'm in a business where I'm gone all the time.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I just saw this joke. This comedian did a joke, and he's like, yeah, he's like, my wife's a, you know, psychology major, and she argues with me all the time, you know, and his joke was, I was arguing with her about why we needed the pool boy. And she just said to me, oh, you're just, you know, you're just threatened. Your masculinity is threatened because she's a psychology major. She's giving him all these reasons, you know, why his masculinity is being threatened. And, you know, this young virile boy is like, you know, yada, yada, yada. And he goes, yeah, my argument was, you know, we don't have a pool. You know what I
Pretty
mean?
good.
So it's
Yeah.
like, you know, but when you're a comedian, you're an actor, you're a fucking musician, it's human nature, dude. Like, I'm gone, which is one of the reasons why I left the Dead Daisies. You know what I mean? I was like,
Right.
I
You want to
just
spend
got,
more time with your family and your son, right?
yes, you know what I mean? It was weird. It was no, this is wife number three. She was fine, but it was like I was just sitting there going, all right, I've painted this picture before. I've done this before where I was gone so much that it led the other person to being either lonely or something stressful happens at the house, you know, and they turn to a friend or whatever, and you find, you know what I mean? It's just, it happens.
Yeah.
It's nothing unusual. And then there's youth. Even my wife now, I'm not much older than my wife, but I'm older than my wife. You know what I mean? That wife was, fuck, I was 20 years older than her. You know what I mean? So I'm gone. She's in her fucking early to mid 20s, and I'm fucking gone, 8, 9, 10 months a year, you
Right.
know, whatever. So it was, I'm not mad. Again, I don't have any regrets. I just think it's a funny story now. But, um, it was a little devastating at the moment it was happening. But, say la vie, man, live and learn, you
What
know?
about there's another relationship you had after that. I think you mentioned her in the book, Ashley, right? You dated her for a while. She was the one that kind of told you that, hey, you have this musical talent that you're not using, and it's a shame.
Well, she didn't, look, first of all, I'm a very spontaneous person, and I just was looking at now. I'm going through this divorce with the second girl.
Mm-hmm.
I get the offer. I was on tour with Rat. Um, I get the offer to join the Brides of Destruction. So I'm doing Rat and the Brides of Destruction. Basically, we were just writing when I had time off and rehearsing. Well, then all of a sudden, Rat takes a year off. Now I'm going through this divorce. I'm in the thick of it. And I'm doing the shit with the Brides of Destruction, which I totally, again, wasn't totally sure of, like, what direction we were going in, where that was leading. And I had already, at this point, I was so frustrated. LA, you know, I don't know if you've ever lived in LA.
No, I visited it. I was actually just there around the time of the Oscars, and it's
Yeah,
changed a lot.
well, it has. But when I was there, it was like, fuck, dude, it was like, I'm going through, here's divorce number two. Um, you know, there was still a lot of stuff happening on the strip, like Sunset Strip and, all this shit. But I just kind of felt like I was in a rut. I was in like this, ugh, you know what I mean? And I knew I had off a year. So I just said, for multiple reasons, I just need to do something different. I need to shake things up a little bit. So to be honest with you, my first choice, uh, there's the old adage or the old stories about guys like Bob Dylan and Woody Guthrie just jumping on a boxcar and driving around America like a hobo in a fucking boxcar. So my first choice was, you know what? I'm going to see if I can, go work for the railroad for a little bit, maybe ride in the caboose or, go do that for a few months.
Well, I thought it,
And
was like, it took 5 years to be a train conductor.
yeah, it was crazy. It
Yeah,
was like you need all this training and,
yeah.
so I was like, okay, well, all right. Well, I've always been fascinated with trains and trucks. So I said, you know what? So I made some phone calls and I'm like, how long does it take to get a driver's license for a truck? And pretty much across the board, they were like, I don't know, a month. And I'm like, oh, that's doable. So I took money and I just enrolled myself in the school. So when Nikki called me and he said, "We don't need you to write anymore," he told me Tracy doesn't want to write with you. Years later, I talked to Tracy about it. Tracy's like, "I never said that, dude. Six said he didn't want to write with you."
Hmm.
So I'm like, whatever. That's between you guys to figure out. All I know is the band said they don't want to write with me. And so I just said, you know what? I'm out. I got something else in mind that I'm going to go do. So at that point, I gave Nikki my resignation. I said, thanks for the offer. Love you. I'm out. And I took like, I don't know, 3,500 bucks. And I went and I got the fucking driver's license. And it wasn't 2 days after I passed the driving test. I did the same thing again, some resumes, sent them out, and I get a gig driving around with some other dude in a truck, and we just drove around America for fucking 7, 8 months. And then Warren DeMartini called and said, "Hey, dude, we're going out with Poison." And I was like, "Okay." And I told the guy, I said, "Let's go back to the office. I got to turn my fucking shit in." And that's when everybody that I was working with for the last 7 or 8 months realized that I had sang with Motley Crue and Rat. I never told anybody. I just was like, I was just some guy that was like hanging out. And I play guitar. I'd literally sit in the back. He would go in and get a shower or go get some food. And I would just sit in the back, pluck a guitar and, you know, whatever. I just lived the gypsy lifestyle for like 7, 8 months, 9 months.
But so
It
was
was,
that Ashley girl that you dated for a while? Because did she not inspire? Did she not encourage you? She said you were given musical talent and you're not using it.
yeah.
And
Well,
that's a shame.
there was a point where, so I'm kind of, so I, for a period of time, I did drive with another driver. There was two of us in the truck at
Mm-hmm.
all times. But then there was a point where I was like, fuck, man, I'm never home. Like I wanted to see my kid. So I worked out a thing where I drove from LA to Phoenix, back to LA, back to Phoenix. I just did that all week. And they call it a uh, designated run. So you just do the same run all the time.
Okay.
And at one point, I asked if that girl actually could ride with me.
Oh,
And my
okay.
boss goes, "Yeah, dude, I just had to get an insurance waiver,
Oh.
and then she jumped in the car and I had never discussed music or anything with her. When I first met her, she didn't even realize that had been in Motley or Rat or any of that stuff. And so we're sitting in the truck, and she asked, she goes, I don't really know. I know you play music because I used to always go to the Cat Club and jam. She goes,
She was a waitress at the Cat Club, right?
yes. And I don't know. I don't know if I had a CD player in the truck or not, but I wound up playing her some music and some new music I had written and recorded. And she was listening to this, and then she looked at me and she goes, "The fuck are you doing?" And I go, "What are you talking about?" She goes, like she listened to some Union stuff and some Motley stuff and the Scream and some of the new shit that I was working on. And she goes, I don't understand what you're doing. Like you were literally put on earth to do this. Why are you doing this? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I go, I don't know, just clearing my head. There's nothing wrong with that. Like stepping back from something and looking at it again. And you know what I mean? Uh, she was like, you need to get out and fucking play music, like whatever. So once again, whatever. I dropped her off at home, and I went and I did my thing. And it was another month or two. I just sat there, and then Rat called and said, "We're going back out on the road." And I was like, "All right, cool." And then after that, there was a few times where I was on tour with Rat where I flew her out. She came and hung out with me for a few days, and she goes, "Okay, now I get it. Now but it
That's
honestly,
crazy. Now,
yeah, the truck thing, dude, was just it was a reset for me.
sure,
You know what I mean?
sure.
That's all.
That's it. But so is this a true story too, though? Is that the girl that you dated, Ashley? Did she end up marrying Larry David, the comedian, the creator of Seinfeld? Is that a true story, or is that like a?
Yeah. How do you know this?
I know everything, dude.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, but no, we're still friends. Um, we're actually it's funny because uh I have I not a lot, it's not like we talk every day, but every now and then something will pop up and I'll comment on one of her photos or something on Instagram. And um but I just saw something. There's a Larry David fan page, and I've been noticing on this fan page that they're posting some like really crazy photos of like naked girls. And I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. So I sent it to, because I know how like fans do pages for you. Somebody will do a fan page, John Corabi fan page or whatever.
Mhm.
It's not my page, it's their
Right.
page.
Yeah.
And they can basically do whatever they want. But I just, Larry's in a completely different stratosphere than I am. And so I just kind of took a snapshot of this naked girl and I sent it to Ashley and I go, "Hey, just for the record, like, I don't know if Larry's aware of this, but you may want to let him know that there's a Larry David fan page that's posting like some pretty risque fucking photos that I know Larry would not appreciate."
Right.
And so I
I think what
sent her like,
happens is those pages get hacked. It's probably not even the person that started the page.
well, I guess apparently it was a page that somebody owned and they sold the page, and now the
Oh,
new owner is
okay.
just whatever. So I just said, "Hey, just from one artist to another,
Oh,
like, hey, this is happening." But she appreciated it. She said, "Yeah, he's pissed about it." So I just wanted to bring it to his attention, and I haven't met him yet. But I've been invited the next time I'm in LA to come to have dinner with them. And
really?
yeah, no, we're still friends, dude. He knows that she used to date me,
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah, because
and
when you Google it, I was like, this is like not. I feel like this is a big news story. Like maybe nobody cares. I don't. I thought it was really
no, it's
interesting though.
not.
Like,
And the funny thing is, like, even some of the Dead Daisies guys, they've met her. Like anytime we
yeah,
were in LA, she would come and hang out, at the hotel that we stay at. And they have a hotel bar there, so she would come with a couple girlfriends or whatever. But it's funny, years ago, um, without getting too crazy here, but apparently years ago, not apparently, definitely, uh, when we were living together, the girl actress from the
Isla
wedding,
Fisher.
yeah, the Wedding Crashers.
She's like her friend or something, right? That's how
Yeah,
she
yes,
met Larry through.
they went to school together.
Yeah,
There was like this little clique of girls that went to school together at the university, American University in Paris, and they were all friends. So Isla would come over to our house all the time. You know, she was married to Sacha. I had been to their
Sacha
house.
Baron Cohen Borat for people who don't know. Yeah.
Yes, and we had been to their house. And it's like this really incestual thing. Like they were renting a house in Beverly Hills that used to belong to Roger Taylor from Queen was renting them the house. You know what I mean? So,
So
so it was like his house, and
wow.
so and we would go over for dinner and stuff. We went over one time for dinner. They were having what's the Jewish holiday, Shabbats,
Okay.
whatever. And so we had dinner with them, and that's how she met Larry. Like apparently, Ashley went in a different direction. She was doing all these little odds and ends jobs, and she was a waitress, and then eventually she was a writer. She started working with Sacha with his TV shows and his movies. And then they had a dinner one night at their house, and Ashley was doing very well on her own, and they just had a dinner, and she was sitting next to Larry David, and they just struck up this conversation. They were pissing themselves laughing the whole time, and they wound up dating, and just now they're married. So good on them. You know what I mean? It's all good, and there's nothing but the utmost respect. She adores my kids and my grandkids and my wife, and it's all respect, all good, and we're pals. You know what I mean? It's like, again, I don't talk to her every day, but every now and then I'll send her a message. She'll send me something funny, or whatever. I'll ask how she's doing, but it's uh y- you know but when I get to LA, she'll like, "Are you in LA?" Yes. You know where I'm staying. And then she'll call and whatever. And the last time I was there, they invited me over for dinner, but I wasn't in town long enough to actually go and sit down and have dinner with them. But all good.
That would be an interesting. I just because like I'm a big fan of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I'm like, I wonder how much he's like that in real life. Like to actually sit down and have a real dinner with him. Like, is it like being on an episode of that show, or is like I know the show's
And to be
exaggerated.
honest with you, I've never met him, so I couldn't really
Have you ever
answer
watched that
that question.
show though? Have you ever watched Curb?
You know what? Honestly, I don't really watch much TV at all.
Hmm.
I'm not really, and it's funny because I've got friends that are like, dude, oh my God. Like when, they all found out Ashley wound up marrying Larry, they're like, dude, you got to watch fucking Curb.
Yeah.
And it's like, I, I, I want to, but it's like, I almost don't want to because I don't want to go in as a fan. You know what I mean? So I'm not like, I love watching movies. Uh, I'm more about uh, like I love more than anything documentaries.
Hmm.
Uh, I just watched that one or biopic. I just watched that biopic on Bob Dylan.
Now,
Uh,
or did you see the new movie, the one that's like a scripted one? That was good too.
that's the one that I just watched.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
watched it yesterday, and it's funny because I love that kind of shit because or the Queen one, or
Hmm.
I love that kind of stuff. But I gotta be honest with you, I don't watch much. I think the last actual TV show that I actually showed any real interest in was probably Sons of Anarchy.
Hmm.
So how long ago was that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
really
I
don't.
love hearing the stories, the connections and stuff. Like you have, there's a bunch of that stuff in your book. Well, this is the one that was interesting. One of the guys from South Park was the cameraman for the music video on Hooligan's Holiday.
Yeah, I don't
Crazy.
remember which one, but he was the cameraman for Hooligan's Holiday. Yeah. And it was weird. I didn't even know that, but another musician friend of mine knows him, and he was like, "Dude, like, you know, I don't even know the two guys' names that
Trey
do the.
Parker, Matt Stone. Yeah.
I think it was Matt,
Okay.
and apparently they
He's got the
met him.
curly fro.
I couldn't
Trey's
tell
got
you,
blonde hair. Okay.
dude. That
Okay.
was fuck 1990. fucking 3, 4,
Yeah, sure.
you know, and it was. I just remember. I know the director of the video was Nick Egan, and we hired him because he had just done "Ordinary World" by Duran Duran.
That was a cool song.
Yeah, that was a great tune. It's one of my favorites, and we loved the video. Tommy and I fucking just were like, "Oh my god, this video's fucking brilliant." So we hired Nick Egan, and he put the whole team together, and we just showed up. We did the video, and we left. And years later, uh, and I want to say it might have been Brent Fitz, but Brent Fitz is like, "Hey, dude, did you know, the dude from fucking South Park and blah, 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 and
Huh.
Matt?" And I go, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, dude, I met him. We were at a party, and he was the camera operator for fucking Hooligan's Holiday."
That's
And
so
I go,
crazy.
"I have no way to prove it, but that's what I was told."
Yeah. That's did you have to go? It's one now. Do you have another one at one or you keep going?
No, you're good. You're
Oh, sweet.
fine.
I love this. This is great. Yeah, because there's another thing in the book. I don't remember if there's much of a story, but you hung out with Dave Grohl in London around this time too.
It's very brief. Yeah, Tommy and I, the whole band was staying at a place called the St. James Hotel in Paris, and uh, yeah, it was weird. But Tommy and I were like, "Oh, let's take a walk." I just remember it was snowing, and we were maybe 4 city blocks away from the Eiffel Tower. So we took a walk. Uh, we took a walk down there, and it was snowing, and it was like February or March because we went over and we did press for it was we did Milan, Madrid, Munich. Uh, we did 5 cities: Milan, Munich, Madrid, London, and uh, somewhere else. I don't know. But in Paris, duh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we walked down to we're walking to the Eiffel Tower, and we're standing on the corner. It's snowing, and there was all these like outdoor kind of tables and coffee shops, and somebody yelled, "Tommy!" And we turned around, and Dave Grohl ran up, and we just started bullshitting with him, and we kind of looked over, and there was a dude sitting at the table where you know, and it was Kurt, and they were just out having a coffee or something, and then it was weird. It was like a month later, maybe. Again, I'm a little vague on the time frame, but they were over there, and it wasn't that long after that where apparently uh, Kurt had that issue where he was in Paris and he had maybe taken some sleeping pills and champagne or something, and then he kind of had to check himself into a rehab or whatever. But we saw them. He was sitting on the thing, and Dave came running over, and him and Tommy started talking drums and all this weird shit. And I just sat there like a bump on the log. And Kurt wasn't much more of he was kind of very quiet and not very talkative either. And then we're like, all right, see you guys later. And we just went about our business and then went back to the hotel.
I wonder how, yeah, it's interesting because, like, at that time, I remember it was just such a rift between the grunge and the quote unquote 80s acts or whatever. So it's interesting that Tommy was friends with Dave Grohl. I'm curious to hear how that.
I don't really think there was, it was weird because even when we were doing that record, um, you know, there really wasn't a rift.
Hmm.
It's what people perceived to be a rift. You know, you had a bunch of, and I'll call it milk toast. But even I just saw an interview with Ricky Rocket the other day, and he was talking about, they were talking about the whole thing with Nirvana coming back into, or blowing up when it did, and he goes, that's kind of something that has to happen with the music industry every so many years, because you have like the bands that kind of are very successful, and they make a name for themselves, the Motleys and the Bon Jovis and the Def Leppards and the Poisons, Hanoi Rocks, you know, and then there's the fucking thousand other bands that record labels sign like that band, or even Guns
Right.
N' Roses. It was like you could see the shift when Guns N' Roses got signed. Everybody was dressing like Poison on the Sunset Strip. And then the minute Guns N' Roses got signed, everybody put their spandex and their fucking leopard print away. And they started wearing like motorcycle jackets with denim vests over them. And, I get what he was saying. But I remember when we were doing the Motley record, when we were in Vancouver, all the dudes from Pantera came to the studio to hear what we were doing.
Hmm.
They had a show that night at the Commodore, which is a huge venue in Vancouver. Um, and they came to the studio. I don't know whether Tommy invited them, Nikki, Bob Rock, whatever, but they came to Little Mountain, and we sat and we played them a bunch of shit that we were working on. And they were like, fuck, dude, this is fucking awesome. And then Tommy and I went to the show that night to see them at the Commodore. And it's funny because they did a home video, like a DVD thing. Uh, I don't know if it was they were still touring, I believe, on the Cowboys from Hell record.
Oh, it wasn't Vulgar Display Power at that
I
point?
don't know. I'm not sure, because I know Vulgar Display came out right around the same time as our record came out. We were still working on the Motley record in
Okay.
Vancouver when they came up. So they may have been still touring on the album prior to Vulgar Display.
Is this when
And
they spiked your drink with ecstasy and heroin or something?
no, that was later.
Okay.
This is where Tommy and I went to the show, and we were backstage with them, and they shaved Tommy's head.
Oh, okay.
And it's on the video.
Oh,
He's like, do it, bro. Fuck, do it. Do it. And fucking Phil completely shaves his head.
wow.
And then they turn to me and they're like, come on, bro, you're next. And I go, fuck that, dude. I ain't doing this shit. Fuck you guys. No way. So Tommy showed up to the studio the next day looking like a Q-tip. And, but then later, our record was finished. We had been to Europe to do a bunch of press, and we came back, and then uh, the guys invited us to come to Dallas to celebrate. It was either Dime or Vinny's birthday.
Hmm.
So we flew to Dallas, and we hung out with those guys. And again, it's my dumbass. I was more mad at Tommy than the Pantera guys, because they asked me, but they're like, they picked us up at the airport in a limousine, and it was Dime, Vinny, Rex, and somebody else. Phil wasn't there.
Hmm.
He was in New Orleans. So they picked us up at the airport, and they had a bottle of Crown Royal. And they're like, hey, dude, want an excellent shot? And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. you know, I'm not, I wasn't a drug guy, so I'm like, I don't know. But they're like, hey, bro, you want an excellent shot? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So I did one in the car. Then we went to this radio station called the Eagle in Dallas. And they're like, hey, dude, want an excellent shot? And I go, yeah, sure, dude. So I did another one there. And then we went to the birthday party, which was at a club, I believe, called The Basement in Dallas. And we're backstage and they're like, hey, dude, excellent shot. And I go, yeah, dude. And I did another one. So I did like 3 or 4 shots. And then it was weird. I just remember I was so fucked up that I was literally sitting at a table and I was like falling asleep at the table. I felt a little nauseous, but then I would wake up. I'd be like all perky and literally like a dog dragging his fucking asshole across the carpet. And this chick could have been, maybe I was, I don't know who the fuck she was. All I remember is looking at this chick going, this girl looks like that model, Kathy Ireland. Do you remember Kathy
Oh
Ireland, the
yeah,
old
she was in
photo?
Necessary Roughness, and yeah.
Yeah. So there's a chick sitting in Dallas at this table, and it's just me and her.
Do you think it
And
was her, or was this a girl that looked like her?
I, I, I don't know if it was her or not.
It wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility if you're
Uh,
hanging with Tommy Lee that he would know some.
well, you know, but we're in Dallas, Texas as well, you know, and I'm with the Pantera guys. It was packed in this room, and I do remember jamming with the Pantera guys. I think I played guitar. We did Cold Gin by Kiss. And then I went back to the table. I was so fucked up I could barely play. I remember struggling to get through the song. I went back to the table and I was sitting with this girl and she was like playing with my hair and I was just out of it. And I remember because we weren't staying far from this club. I just said to her, I gotta go, man. I'm gonna go back to my room. And she came back with me to my hotel and I just passed out. You know, I was like out of it. But I got up the next day and I literally had like 103 fever. I was sick as a dog. My back hurt. Like I was in agony. My back hurt so bad. And we were supposed to leave. So I pulled myself together, took a shower. Uh, we went out to a Benihana's. The girl was gone when I woke up. She was just gone. Me, Tommy, Dime, his girlfriend Rita, Rex was there with his wife and Vinny, and we went to a Benihana's. We had some lunch, and we were supposed to leave later that day. And they talked us into staying a day or two longer. And Dime told Tommy that he had some jet skis and there was a lake somewhere near their house. They're like, come on, man, we'll go to the lake. We'll fucking hang out. I was so sick, though. I went to, I think it was Rex's house, and we picked up the jet skis. Rex's wife and Rita were like, dude, you're burning up. Like, I go, I don't feel good. So I just remember uh, those guys all got Dime. I think Dime had a pickup truck. It was either Dime or Rex had a pickup truck. They went to the lake and I got out of the car. I was still fully clothed. I had leather pants on, a sweater, and I was under a fucking moving blanket. like in the back of the truck, and I just fucking slept the whole day.
Hmm.
Like they were jet
Damn.
skiing, and I just slept in the back of the fucking pickup truck the whole day. I don't even remember them putting the jet skis back on the trailer. Next thing I know, we're back at fucking Rex's house or Dime's house, and they're like, dude. And I was like, all right, cool. We got dropped off at the hotel. I went back to sleep again. And then Tommy and I got on a plane and flew home the next day. And I was still sick. And that's when I said to Tommy, I go, I don't fucking get this, dude. Like, I don't know why I'm so fucking sick. And Tommy, that's when Tommy goes, oh, dude, it's probably from the excellent shots. And I go, what the fuck are you talking about? And he goes, dude, the shots that we were doing had ecstasy in it. And he goes, excellent shot. So I kind of got pissy with Tommy. I go, dude, why would you not tell me? Like, I don't get the lingo. Like, why would you not tell me that, that I was doing ecstasy? You know what I mean? And but that's also why, like, I was literally, apparently, it was like ecstasy in these capsules, ecstasy and a little bit of heroin. So I was literally like falling asleep, and then the ecstasy would kick in, and I was dragging my ass across the carpet. And then I would start falling asleep again, and this chick would rub on my back, and I was like, "Oh, hey, what? Yeah, okay, cool." And then I took her back to the hotel, thinking we'd fuck, and I just passed out. So I
Yeah.
don't remember any of it.
That's crazy. Do you think so? Like for you, they like knocked you out, but Tommy's like, yeah, he's going jet skiing the next day. Like, do you think that like guys like him and the Pantera guys, like they were just wired differently? Like they can just party like I mean, because the older I get, I mean, I have like two drinks and I'm like I'm falling asleep at the hotel. Like,
Yeah, well, and again, I think it helps when you know, when
oh,
you're mentally prepared
yeah,
for what it is that you're doing.
true.
And in their defense, they asked,
Yeah.
"Hey, dude, you want to do an excellent shot?" And I go, "Yeah, okay." But nobody told me what excellent
Yeah.
meant.
I never heard of
Y-
that before.
Yeah, and I'm like, Okay, yeah, whatever." So I didn't really know what I was doing or who I was, whatever. I just remember getting really fucked up really quick, and then I was sick for like a couple of days afterwards. And I was like, this is not fucking fun. And then I couldn't figure out why my back hurt so bad. I literally felt like I got hit by a car.
Huh.
My back was like, just to touch it, it was like sore. And everybody's like, oh, dude, that's from the ecstasy. It's like all the shit, all your neurons and your nerves and everything. When people touch you, you're like, oh, yeah, But afterwards, the after effect, I guess, is
Oh,
your fucking spine is just on fire.
that
And I
sounds
was like,
painful.
yeah, it was not fun, dude. I was like not fucking happy about it.
It's a crazy story though. It's a crazy night.
Yeah, it was definitely definite. And then the crazy part is I went back like 2 weeks later, and I went to the same bar, and I wound up getting arrested for, I still to this day don't know why I got arrested. Nobody ever charged me with anything, but I sat in a jail cell in fucking Dallas for like 2.5 days.
I don't
Yeah, it
remember
was.
this. Was this in the book? I don't remember this.
I don't know if it was or not, but um, I was friends with uh, this girl Lori, um, and it, okay, so it's a really incestual story. So when I was at the party for the Pantera guys, when I did the ecstasy, uh, this girl came up to me, this redhead, and I was outside trying to get some air and smoke a cigarette, and she she said something to me. She basically said, I'm friends with Lori. And I was like, oh, shit. Oh, fuck. How's she doing? I knew Lori from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. She worked at Hooters and just a girl that used to come and see the Scream all the time. And I kind of had lost touch with her. Um, so I got reacquainted. She called Lori on the phone. We talked for a second. And so I told her, I said, yeah, if I'm ever in Dallas, we swapped numbers, all that shit. And, I did my thing with the Pantera guys and then I left. Well, then the following week or 2 weeks later, I had to go to Tampa, Florida to do a week of radio shows, like a morning show, uh, to promote the Motley record. They were playing the first single, Hooligan's Holiday. So I was like a guest on their morning show for like 4 days in a row. I'm all done in Tampa and I get on a flight and I realize that I have a layover in Dallas. So I call Lori and uh, Lori, Jennifer, uh, my good buddy, God rest his soul, Dave Williams, who sang with uh, I'm having a brain fart right now. Let the bodies hit the floor.
Oh yeah, drowning pool.
Thank you. Uh, he was there, so I met Dave, and then his girlfriend Kat. I took them all to dinner. We went to a steakhouse. We had dinner, and then afterwards, we kind of decided we were going to go back to this basement club that I had just been to 2 or 3 weeks prior and just go get a cocktail. And then they were going to take me back to my hotel and I was going to leave the following morning. So we go to the club, and as soon as I walked in with Lori and Jennifer and Dave and Kat, the owner remembered me from being in Motley, and he's like, "Oh, hey, dude, blah blah blah." So we went in, we sat at this back bar, and he made me a drink. He made everybody a drink. They were regulars there. I had only been there, you know, with the Pantera guys a couple weeks before, and now. So we go in, and he made me a drink. Then he said, "I'm going to close the club now. So I got to dump your drink. But as soon as I get everybody out of the club, you're welcome to stay and I'll make you another drink." And I go, "Okay, cool." So I paid him out for everybody's drinks. I paid him and he got everybody out of the club and then he makes me another drink. And I think I'm maybe like talking to the guy, the owner. "Oh yeah, dude, I had a great time, yada yada yada." And he's talking to Lori and everybody, and then 5 minutes later, all of a sudden there's like this bang on the door. The side door of the club opens up and all these cops come rushing into the club. And I'm sitting at the bar and I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on right now. So they ID everybody. So I pull out my driver's license. Lori pulls out hers. Everybody does. They take everybody and they're checking everybody's ID. And for some reason, this cop comes up and handcuffs me and says, "You're uh, you're under arrest for public intoxication."
Hmm.
So I get in the car and I start fucking having to come apart, and my stupid temper. But I'm like, "Fuck you, dude. You better be taking me to a hospital for a blood test. If you're going to charge me for public intoxication, I want to blow into something or I want a fucking blood test that says I'm intoxicated. I just got here from Tampa, Florida. I haven't been drinking, so I don't know where the fuck this is coming from. Anyway, they took me to the jail and they put me in a cell, and I sat there the whole night and the whole next day. I missed my flight the next day. And then the following night at like 2 o'clock in the morning, I couldn't call anybody because I didn't have, they had all my shit. And then about, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, some guy opened up the jail cell and brought me like this little mini frozen burrito. And he's like, hey, dude. And he's sitting there and he's looking at me and he's like, you look really familiar. Do I know you? And I go, well, I'm the new lead singer for Motley Crue. And you may have seen me on MTV or the news. Like it's been getting out now that I'm the singer. And he goes, what are you doing here? And I basically let him have it. I go, I have no fucking idea why I'm here, but I got arrested the other day in a fucking club. I sat here. I missed my fucking connecting flight to LA this morning, and I'm still sitting here. And then, literally, like 5 minutes later, the guy shut the door. He goes, I'll be right back. He shut the door, and then him and another guy came and they let me out and they handed me all my shit and they just let me out.
Wow, that's crazy.
So I told the guy, so listen, man, you're gonna hear from my fucking lawyer. Like, I have no idea why you guys never charged me with anything,
Yeah.
didn't fingerprint me, didn't take my photo, didn't take me to a hospital. He basically said that I was publicly intoxicated. I hadn't finished one drink, not one, while I was in that bar. Because the
Wow.
first one he made me, he dumped it. And
Yeah.
then he made me another one, and they raided the place like 2 minutes afterwards.
Weird.
And so I had Motley's lawyer call them and just fucking rip them a new asshole because I had to buy another flight from Dallas to, I missed my first one. And it was just like this big thing, and I had no idea. But um, it was weird. I found out later, uh, Lori said the cop that arrested me used to come into her work and he had a bit of a crush on her. And he
Oh,
thought that I was like, maybe I was a little too friendly with her. I don't know what the deal
okay.
was, but I literally wound up spending like, I don't know, it was like 30 hours in a Texas jail cell for absolutely no fucking reason at all.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was weird. It was weird, dude. It was really weird.
I'm surprised the press didn't get wind of that and that wasn't like a Metal
Oh,
Edge article or
it-
something.
yeah, it was weird. Nobody, they never took a photo. They never fingerprinted me. They never charged me with anything. I was just literally sitting in a jail cell.
Hmm.
And if the guy, he was kind of a younger cop, came in, asked me if I wanted something to eat, and he gave me a burrito. And had he not done that, I could still be sitting there fucking like Rip Van Winkle,
Jeez.
whatever. So it was, yeah, it was a bit of an experience.
Was that the only time being in jail?
No,
Oh,
no,
shit.
I was a bit of a hellion when I was younger. I've been in trouble in jail multiple times
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
prior
because
to
I think
that.
you talk about that in the book when you were a kid. You're like, weren't you accused of murder or something? There was like a whole thing about that that's in the book that.
Yeah, yeah, it was but it wound up being, I got into a fight with this guy's kid and, you know, dumb shit, teenage stupidity.
Teenage stuff, yeah.
Yeah,
Nothing
we got
recent.
into a fist fight, and basically when he was walking away, my little bravado thing in front of my friends, I'm like, yeah, if you ever come on our street again, I'll kill you. And then the guy wind up showing up dead. Well, his father, it's a long story, but his father was a serial killer
Yeah, that was
who
crazy.
actually got caught for killing whatever. And then it's a long story, but they found out that the father, after they posted picture in the paper, uh, some other people saw his picture and were like, wait, we found that kid's body. That was the same guy that used to come and hang out at this construction site where they found the kid's body. And they put two and two together, and then they found out that he had killed his own son for like a 35 or $50,000 insurance policy or some weird thing.
Yeah.
And but that was a process of about 7 or 8 months of the cops showing up at my fucking house wanting to speak to me, you know, and questioning me about the fact that I said I'd kill him if he came back on our street. And eventually it was like, oh, okay, you're clear, you're good to go. But I got to, there was a point there where I was sweating some bullets because I was like, fuck, man, I'm going to go to jail for something I didn't do.
Yeah, that's scary because back then they wouldn't have the DNA stuff to exonerate you. Like they could just say like, "Oh, we got enough evidence. He's made the threat. Like we think it was him." Like,
Well, yeah, and it was funny because back then it was like, all these old brick row homes like in New York and Philadelphia and Boston. And, my neighbors, it's weird. If there was two kids fighting in the fucking street or there was a fist fight, my neighbors would go get a lawn chair and pull it out and sit and watch the whole thing and make wagers. You know what I mean? It was like not unusual for that kind of it was always happening.
mm-hmm.
So the neighbors are like, yeah, that's the cops are showing photos and they're like, oh, yeah, that's the Callinger kid around the corner. Well, when's the last time you saw him? And they're like, well, shit, I think the last time I saw him, the Corabi kid up the street, they were in a fist fight. And, now that you mention it, he did say he'd kill him if he ever came on the street again. And I didn't have the greatest of reputations in my neighborhood. So I was a little bit of a troublemaker, just doing stupid shit that, the whole like, knock, knock, run shit and, uh, you know, fill up a bag with dog shit in it and soak it with lighter fluid and light it and knock on the door and run. And then watch the owner get all pissed off because he'd step on the shit and shit would get all over their feet and shoes and dumb shit like that. But I was, a lot of the local cops in the neighborhood knew me by name. So it wasn't that much of a stretch for me to get into trouble. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, that's a little, but it's like that's a lighting dog shit on fire is different than killing. So obviously, so yeah, I'm glad you didn't go to prison for that. That's crazy though.
Man, but I got to be honest with you. A lot of my friends that I grew up with are either still in prison or dead, from stupid shit that they did. So, uh, that environment, that neighborhood, that, you know, it wasn't unusual. You know what I mean? Back in the, 60s, 70s, you know, that's what you did. You fucking, you know, you fucked with people. You know
Right.
what I mean? It was
Now
like
it's all
that.
online. Now people just they TikTok at each other and they write comments on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and stuff.
Yeah, which is, you know, it's kind of shitty. Back then, if you didn't like somebody, you called them out for their shit, and then you took your jacket off and you stood in the middle of the street and put your hands up and you just beat the shit out of each other for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was like there was a clear winner, clear loser, and then you shook hands and, then everything was good again. So it was a little bit of a different time.
Yeah. That's what my dad said too. He said there was fights like every day after school and like he would got in a couple of them, got his ass kicked. But yeah, he said that was like a thing. People would get into fights, but nobody ever brought guns to the school. That's like a newer phenomenon. That wasn't like a thing when you guys were kids.
Yeah, it was weird. Like it was crazy. But I mean, even just the way our parents were brought up. I mean, I remember, you know, my mom and dad, my immediate family. I have a half brother as well, but my mom and dad my dad was Italian, my mother was fucking Irish as you could get. So they both had shit tempers, and it wasn't that unusual. I mean, I remember, fuck, my sister coming home upset. Now, I lived in a really mixed neighborhood, and there was a kid in our neighborhood named Bernard, this black kid, took my sister's bike. And my mom's advice to my sister was no different than her advice to me and my brother. And her advice was, if you're somebody took your bike. It's like, yeah. And my sister was upset about it. My mom was like, okay, well, you can sit here and cry like a pussy and I'll kick your ass, or you can go out there and get your fucking bike back. So, like, when, you know, if there was a fucking dispute, you know, you didn't have to worry about me or my brother. You had to worry about me, my two sisters, and my brother, because my sisters would throw down just as hard as my brother would. You know what I mean? And that's just the way we were brought up. You know, if somebody's fucking with you, if somebody hits you, hit them back twice as fucking hard. Let them know you were there. You may not win, but you know what? They'll respect you when it's all said and done because you didn't take their shit. And that's how we were brought up. So it's like, all right, you know, and it's just I've had situations later where it's like I've had somebody disagree with me and it got pretty fucking heated. And they're like, you know, somebody would say to me, I'm gonna kick your ass. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, have at it. You might kick my ass, but you better fucking knock me the fuck out when you hit me. Cause I will get up and it's on. And that's just, you know, my mom and dad were like fucking brutal about that shit. It was like, nah, dude, one thing we will not tolerate, both of my parents, was like, I will not tolerate raising a pussy. So go get your fucking bike. And so it was a different time, man. It was, you know, you didn't have a gun. You didn't have, you know, you did all your shit with your hands.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
And you still have that mentality. I mean, maybe not you're not physically beating the shit out of people, but I mean, you could still stick up for yourself as an artist. I mean, doing these interviews, I mean, you're pretty candid about things when people say things about you, you defend yourself. And
I don't, you know, I don't really look. I mean, the one thing that I can say I've learned throughout the years is pick and choose your fucking battles. You know, now especially with the internet, dude, there's just some shit you're never going to like. You're just never going to convince anybody anything different. You know, people are on the internet. They've made their mind up. They've done their own research. They've figured it out on their own, whatever it may be, whether it's politics or whatever. I could say, yeah, but, and they're going to go, yeah, but, and they'll find another yeah, but that happened prior to my yeah, but, and it's just, you're just going to
yeah,
volley back and forth. So it's like, you know what, just keep to yourself. My thing now is stay in your lane. You know, you may not agree, you may not like the way I look. I don't give a fuck. I might not like the way you look, but I'm not going to tell you I don't like the way you look. That's your choice. You like the way you look, fucking knock yourself out, dude. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? And I just really don't care. You know what
yeah.
I mean? So I pick and choose my battles.
Well, and I think we talked about this last time when you saw the crew with Vince, and then Tommy's like, "No, give me your honest opinion." And you were like, "I thought Aerosmith blew you away." Like, so if people ask you, you're gonna tell the truth. Like, but ultimately, you're not gonna go out of your way to say things that are hurtful. But if people ask you, like, do you like the way I look? You would probably tell them, right?
Look. At the end of the day, you know, my motto is, you know, don't rip anybody off. Don't lie to anybody. Always tell the truth. If you believe in something, fight for it to a degree. You know, it's like even in music, like I could sit here and say, you know, I love Doug, I love David, I love Michael, I love Tommy. I'm not always going to agree with them. I will tell them my 2 cents, but I've actually learned to where in my youth, maybe in the scream, I would have, you know, it would have gone to fisticuffs if I was really adamant about what I believed in. Where now I just sit there and I go, here's what I think. But if I get outvoted, I'm like, okay, whatever. I got outvoted 4-1 or 3-2 or whatever it is. So again, I pick and choose my battles. I stay in my own lane. But at the end of the day, if I can go to bed and put my head on my pillow and go, I didn't intentionally fuck anybody over. I didn't intentionally lie to anybody. I didn't intentionally rip anybody off. And if I did, I'll be the first person to say, I'm sorry, I didn't realize. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I just stay in my own lane, dude. And I just wish that more people chose to do that. I think now with this platform that we have, I truly believe like the phones and the computers it's a beautiful tool that we could use to learn shit from, you know, but again, I think you and I discussed this before. I watched a thing called The Social Dilemma on Netflix, which
Yeah,
is a brilliant thing. I think everybody should watch it because
that's a good one.
you'll figure out that all of the shit that you're reading and getting off the internet isn't necessarily fact.
Yes, well, that's definitely, I've fallen for shit. I've caught people have like said, "Hey, that's not." I'll post something and be like, then they'll say like, "This isn't real." I'm like, and I look it up and I'm like, "Oh shit!" Like, I think we've
Yeah.
all fallen victim to it. I mean,
Yes, and I've never been a poster anyway. You know, and now especially with the climate being the way that it is, politically, you know, everybody's so locked into their fucking thing. And it's just funny to me, like, you know, for example, I've had little issues where, you know, during COVID, uh, I had people, you know, and this works both ways. I had people give me shit for wearing a mask. And I'm like, that's what I chose to do. Like,
and
that's what
sometimes you
they
didn't have a choice. Sometimes you had
well,
to wear
no,
the
no,
mask.
no, no, but it doesn't even matter. Like, you know, there's some people that are going to argue the point where masks weren't good for you. And then there's other people that, whatever. And I just sat there when they said, you know, in the very beginning of COVID, they're like, oh, you should wear a mask. And I was like, oh, okay. You know, yeah, I don't want to get my wife sick. I don't, if, you know what I mean? I
Mhm.
don't want to get my kids sick. I don't want to get my grandkids sick. I don't want to get my mother-in-law sick. Um, you know, I know if you go to Japan, fuck, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you walk down the street, probably 80% of the people walking in Japan are all wearing masks because, you know, flu bugs and different germs and whatever. So I didn't, I was like, okay, you know, I didn't do the research. I didn't, I didn't check to see if anybody was lying to me. They suggested wearing a mask. I just did it. Um, you know, and I remember going to a grocery store and this fucking redneck motherfucker behind me just for no apparent reason decided to give me his 3 cents on why I was one of the sheep and blah, 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 blah. And I just looked at him. I'm like, dude, I didn't ask you. Like, I didn't really ask you for your scientific explanation on why I should or shouldn't wear a mask. I'm not busting your balls for not wearing one. So don't bust my balls for wearing one. You know what I mean? I would never bust anybody's balls for not being vaccinated. But one of the stipulations for me to go to England or go to Canada or go to Switzerland or go to some of the places once they did start opening the borders and you could travel and do shows was that you had to be vaccinated to go to these other countries. So I'm like, well, fuck it. You know what? I had a polio vaccine. I had a fucking measles vaccine. I had a fucking mumps and measles and I had all that shit when I was younger. Fuck it. What's one more vaccine going to do? All right. Hit me up. Give me the card so that I can show it to the guys and I can go to England and make money. Okay. I mean, it's 3, 4, 5 years later. I still don't have a dick growing out of my forehead.
That's good.
But I'm like, okay, whatever. My thing is, I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. Don't tell me how to live mine.
Yeah.
Even if
more
I
people live it,
disagree
they'll
with you.
live. Yeah. Live in
Even if
why
I
can't we?
disagree with
Yeah.
you, I think that's the problem with people nowadays
Yes. I
is
agree.
that they see shit on the internet that they believe in, they think it's a fact, and then they're constantly looking around, you know, and they're making fun of people or they're criticizing people unnecessarily. What was the other big thing? You would drive your car and you would look and I I I saw people do it. Like they would laugh or make fun of somebody that was driving in their car with a mask on. And I would just sit there dumbfounded. They were like, look at that fucking idiot. It's the only one in his fucking car and he's fucking wearing a mask. And I go, okay. So why are you so upset about the fact that that guy who you don't even know is wearing a fucking mask? Who cares? Why do you care? Why are you making a comment about it? Stay in your lane. That's my new motto. That's what I do. I don't care.
Yeah. I mean,
Don't care.
it would be nice because I thought with the election, the last election, I go, okay, like whatever happens with this election, it's all this stuff's gonna die off now, and the politics. It just seems like it just keeps getting ramped up. I'm like, I think this is just. It's kind of like sports. Like sports is like year round now. It's like politics is year round. It's just it's never gonna. It's not in a political year or if there's election coming up. It's all the time. And same with sports. I think for a lot of it is for money. You know, they make a lot of money off these posts and on social media and with the commercials and all this stuff. And
Yeah, dude. It's like everything's about money. Look, at the end of the day, if you watch that documentary, The Social
dilemma. Yeah.
Dilemma, that's what they kind of figured out. They developed these things like GPS and Google and all this other shit, and then everybody started getting information from it. And then they realized, like, hey, we can monetize this. So how do we monetize it? Oh, well, what we do, and I'm sure everybody's done this at one point or another. Like even during COVID, I was telling my wife how upset I was at the fact that I didn't earlier in my career learn how to record myself. Like I was like, oh fuck, I saw all these people during COVID that were doing these recording sessions and they were putting new music out. And I was like, God damn it. I was so fucking mad at myself because I had never taken Pro Tools classes or never really watched how you recorded yourself. And I no sooner said it, it was like a minute and a half later, I got an ad on Instagram or Facebook. Learn how to use Pro Tools.
Hmm.
Oh, okay. So I did the thing and I signed up for the classes. And then I saw this movie, The Social Dilemma, how once they did the Google thing and all this other shit, they've kind of made the phones and computers. And if you watch that, uh, Snowden, the movie Snowden, where your camera's always on and
Yeah, kind of
it's like,
scary.
so some dude in Hawaii can turn your fucking phone on. You might be in your fucking bathroom jerking off to porn on your phone, but he's actually watching you do it through the camera and you don't even fucking know it. So I was like, okay. Well, then they figured out, like, okay, we got all these people now that are going to Google, they're using our GPS. How can we monetize this? Now, what happens is, you know, you go online and you're looking up things like dirt bikes and Megadeth, and you're looking up Metallica and all this other shit, and I'm looking up motorhomes, knitting classes, and fucking cooking. Well, what happens is the phone and the computer recognize it goes through that whole fucking algorithm thing, and the computer starts sending you things that's in your wheelhouse. It also times every time you open something, like we all get a Google news feed every day. So anything Philadelphia Eagles, I open it. So what happens is the computer recognizes you opening that thing on the Philadelphia Eagles, but it not only recognizes you opening it, it keeps a record of how long you kept it open. So it's like, oh, he read the whole thing, or if it's something on, whoever you voted for, Trump, Hillary Clinton, whatever. If I open something on Hillary Clinton and I read the whole thing, but then I opened something on Trump and I was like, oh, this is bullshit, and I closed it. The computer recognizes, oh, he read the whole Hillary Clinton thing, but he only looked at the Trump thing for like 5 seconds and then closed it. So it starts creating a model just for you. That's why
Yeah,
your Facebook news feed is going to be completely different than my Facebook news feed.
right.
It's all done by algorithms and computers.
What I hate about the Facebook thing, especially in all these algorithms and news feeds, is that they pick it, rather, right? Like, so
No,
let's
no, no, no. It's not they.
well
It's
yeah.
a model.
But I'm
It's a
saying, like, you remember when you were a kid and you open up the newspaper and there was sections, right? So if you want to learn about politics, you go to the politics section. You want to read about sports, you go to the sports. There's no news, there's no sections in our news feed. It's just what gets the most drama and the most clicks. Boom, here you go.
no, but it's all created from what you've looked up in the. I'll tell you this right now. I get shit on motorhomes. I get shit on Harley Davidson. Every fucking new thing that Harley Davidson does, I get a fucking.
Yeah.
It's in my news feed.
But
I
that's
get
okay.
things.
I mean, that's a
No, no,
good thing,
no.
right?
I,
Yeah.
I get it, but I get Philadelphia Eagles. Now the funny thing is because I kind of read both, so I get everything Democratic, I get everything Republican, and so I just get this thing. The thing of it is, if you watch the social media or social dilemma, at the very end, all these guys that created Facebook, Google, AOL, like all that shit, they all go on, they all have kids, they don't allow their kids to be
Right.
on the internet.
Yeah.
But the guy says, in reference to um, like politics, he goes, I do believe there's going to be a civil war because the computers don't recognize, uh, hypothetically, let's just say this. Say I'm a Trump supporter, you were a Kamala Harris supporter. It's going to feed you everything Kamala Harris. It's going to feed me everything Trump. But the thing of it is, is I'm going to walk away from my thing going, I got facts right here. I can argue with you because here's the facts. I saw that, this is fact. But you're going to come right back and argue with me. So what's happening is the guy said the computers and the algorithms are creating a world where nobody's ever wrong because they're arguing their facts that are based on the things that they believe in and they looked up.
Well, that's the problem is I feel like if
Yes.
people could look at their own party and their own biases and say, okay, this is wrong, right? Like, I don't care which side you should look at if you don't find any flaws in your party or your candidates, you're
You're an
not
idiot.
hard enough. Yeah.
You're an idiot.
Yeah.
You're
You've
an
got
idiot.
to, yeah. I mean, in both sides, like, even if like you think there's nothing, trust me, there's bad stuff on both sides and just accept that and go, that's what we think we used to do. We used to go, oh, you voted for this guy. Oh, I voted for this one. Oh, okay. Well, that's cool. Let's go have a beer. And that was it. Like we didn't, it's like, no, now it's like so heated that, it's
Well,
like,
it's this thing that I'm talking to you on right now. It's made people so polarized because they
yeah,
don't want to understand or get the fact that all of these politicians are fucking bullshit artists. And they've figured out the fact that um they've monetized it. They've all learned. That's one of the things the guy said going back. Let's, at the end of this, we'll get off politics. But the guy said, everybody was so upset about the Russian collusion thing. Like when, they were going against Hillary Clinton. But he said, like, these outer countries now, your Iran's, your China, your Russia, like all these other countries, they've figured out how to en masse build like 50,000 anti-Trump sites and 50,000 anti-Hillary sites, and they feed it with these facts. But the idea wasn't to help Trump or help Hillary. It
no, to
was
get us to
just
hate each other. Yeah.
exactly because the more chaos and bullshit that's going on amongst us, we ain't watching what's going
Right.
on above us. So it's all bullshit, dude. Like I fucking hate like all the guys in the band, they laugh at me because I have my phone on, it's in my back pocket all day, and I'll look at sports things, I'll look at music stories, like oh, something on Mark Varner from Grand Funk Railroad will come up, and I'll read it, you know, history of ABBA, whatever. Um, I'll read this shit, but then it's like I get to the hotel and I set my alarm, I'll take a nap, I get up, I do my shower, I'll call my wife before I leave. I go, I'm getting ready to go do the show. I'll call you when I get back home. Okay, great. Love you too. Hang up the phone, and my phone stays in my hotel room. I fucking
Yeah.
hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Well, I love the internet. I love obviously these podcasts. All this technology is amazing, but yeah, you need to have limits. I noticed when I went on a cruise, the first cruise I've ever been on, and I purposefully chose to not get internet. And I was like, I just want to see like, let me live without internet for a few days, and it was glorious. It was great. I was like, I need to like be less internet because then you get on there and it's just so much negativity.
Yeah, it's just always negativity. It's always a I told you so.
Yeah.
It's always some condescending
Yes.
bullshit. And I'm like, fuck, man, I'm over this. Like, even my wife and I, we'll watch the news and we'll switch back and forth, conservative TV and then liberal TV. And we go back and forth and we just sit there and we laugh. We go, how is it that these news networks run the same story but have polar opposite fucking viewpoints on everything? So we go, change the TV, let's put a movie on.
Well,
let's
and I
let's
think that's
watch
what you
let's
got to
watch.
do is, yeah, you got to look at both sides, and then you take in the information, and then you put it in your brain at the supercomputer, and then you make your own opinion. I think too many people are not doing that. They're just blindly following one side or the other and just
Well,
repeating
and the
what they
thing,
say.
but again, even more than that, the thing that bothers me is that I just had this in when I was in Europe. You know, I had a few people I was doing interviews, and they're like, "So, you know, what do you think of your, policies back home in your country?" And I'm just like, "Next question." Like the thing that bothers me, I will never ask somebody who they voted for. It's none of my business. I don't care. Do you know what I mean?
I got a
And it's
funny
like,
story to tell
no,
you.
no, no. But it's just like, you know, I grew up in a time where when you went to, there's two things that are between, like, I always say you and God. You know, why do they have a curtain on a confessional in a church? And there's a curtain between you and the priest. So the priest doesn't know who he's talking to. And nobody inside the church can see who walked into the confessional to tell their sins. And why do they have curtains in polling booths? It's nobody's business. Don't ask, don't tell. Just and even my wife and I, we will go to have a drink, and somebody will start talking politics, and my wife and I will literally look at them and go, "Listen, man, here's the deal. We have a theory. There's two things you don't talk about when you're drinking, and that's politics and fucking religion. Stay in your lane." Kind of
Yeah.
simple.
I think there's a place for it. I think people do need to have those discussions, but I don't think it's on the internet. I don't think it's commenting back and forth on the internet. It's probably not with someone you just met in a bar. You have to pick and choose your battles. I think it is important to have those discussions, and I also think it's important to take a break with the social media. With the like, I'm burnt out on the politics. I see it so much on my newsfeed, and I try to hide as much as I can. It just keeps popping up. How do I
Yeah,
get
it's
rid of
like,
this?
you know, back in my day, you know, we can sit here and say, like you know, people respected people like John Kennedy and Richard Nixon and, President Johnson and President Ford and President Carter and President Clinton. But it's gotten gradually worse now. And everybody's like, oh, Trump's the most disrespected president on the fucking planet. And it's like, no, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit because, you know, I know that even Obama was disrespected for wearing a tan suit. I know a mayor in Ohio called his wife an ape in heels. So there's been this gradual lack of respect of the office since probably, Clinton, whatever. So, I personally I'm tired of it. I don't really give a fuck who you voted for. Don't really care. People used to ask me, oh, somebody asked me one time what I thought of like strippers and hookers and all that other shit. And I go, I don't give a fuck what a person does for a living. If I sit down and I'm having a cup of coffee with them and I'm just sitting there bullshitting about life, I don't give a shit what anybody does for a living. I could care less unless it affects me directly, unless that person, disrespects me as a person or somebody in my family. I don't give a shit what you do. I could care less. I've always been a kind of stay in your own lane, mind your own business, worry about you, before you worry about what I'm doing, and just call a fucking spade, dude. You know, it's not real fucking hard. Stop worrying about the guy driving his car wearing a mask alone and worry about what the fuck you're doing.
It's good advice. It's good
You
advice.
know, it's
What's the it's the quote? It's like it was like a Marine or somebody said this. Like, if you want to change the world, start by making your bed. Like, basically like saying like take care of your own shit, make sure your own shit is like, top notch, and then you can start worrying about the world's problems.
yeah, honestly, bro, it's it can be broken down even simpler. Lead by example. You don't need to fucking you don't need to tell the world I'm a good person. Just, Teddy Roosevelt back in the day said, walk quiet with a big stick. Shut the fuck up. Just be a good person, work hard, stay in your fucking lane, stop worrying about the guy next to you. You know what? If your neighbor falls on bad times, great. Go help them out. You know, go share a piece of bread with them if they ain't got anything to eat. In the meantime, shut the fuck up. Live your life, be your own person, work hard, do what you can, and, stop being so fucking condescending. It's really not that hard. People ask me, like, you know, what I think about, or even, I've had people ask me, they trying to get me to say something, you know, disrespectful about, Motley or Def Leppard or any of these bands that are using backing tracks. I don't really give a shit. If that's what they feel they need to do to make their show the best that it can be for the people that are paying the money for the fucking tickets, so be it. I don't care. Doesn't affect me. Well, do you use tapes? No, personally, I don't. I don't believe in it. But I'm not going to be condescending or criticize somebody else that does. That's their choice. That's the way they do business. That's the way they want to handle their shit. And guess what? They're entitled to do that. That's why I didn't understand all the big hullabaloo about the whole Bud Light thing. Everybody was up in arms and Kid Rock shooting all these fucking beer cans because he doesn't like the fact that Budweiser fucking sent, a case of beer, not en masse to the public, just sent a case of beer with some transvestite's fucking picture on it. Okay. So, yeah, well, they just don't know their market. I go, I don't, it's not like they're putting gay jeans in the fucking beer, dude. You know what I mean? It's like,
So
so they
basically,
sent,
what you're saying is you're libertarian.
I don't really give a shit. It's like, how, how does that affect? And I would just tell my friends, like, you know what, dude? Shut the fuck up. Do you like Bud Light?
Do I?
Yes.
No, I
No,
fucking
no, no, no,
I
no.
hated Bud Light. Yeah,
I would say to my friends, do you like
yeah,
Bud Light? Yeah. I drank it until now. Okay. Well, the recipe didn't change. So shut the fuck up. Who cares?
yeah.
It's not like I had
When
a
the boy,
fucking
when the
kid.
yeah, when the
Yeah,
Bud Light boycott hit, I was like, I'm already ahead. I already stopped drinking that
yeah.
shit years ago.
Yeah, dude. You know what
I
I had
like it, but
even when even when the Dead Daisies did the we did the video for I'm Gonna Ride. I can't tell you how many people reached out to me and they're like, dude, I can't believe you're riding those woke bikes. Why are you doing that? And I go, you know what, bro? Why don't you fucking stay in your own lane? If that's what you want to do it. Knock yourself out. At the end of the day, Harley Davidson's been here since late 1800s or early 1900s. I just like the fucking bikes. I like the way they sound. I like the way they look. and it's always been a symbol to me of fucking outlaw, fucking freedom, whatever. And by the way, why are you, as an American, upset at an American company because they're trying to make money? Who gives a shit? Who cares? You know what?
Oh, dude. Okay.
If it bothers you that much, buy an Indian, buy a fucking Yamaha, and shut the fuck up. I don't really give a shit about your opinion.
I
I
agree.
like the bikes. Period.
I agree. I think people should do. I think that where it crosses the line is like this whole thing with the Teslas. Like I get people don't like Musk or whatever. They don't like his politics. They don't want to buy Teslas. Sure, I don't get the like drawing swastikas on the Teslas and burning them and protesting the sales offices. I mean,
Well,
this is like off the rails.
again, this stupidity. This is also a thing that I never understood about. You know, when people again riot over something, and it's like they just start looting and burning shit to the ground. It's like, okay, now that we're all done now. Now, how did that affect you? You just burnt half of your fucking neighborhood down. Now you got to come. You got to go 10 minutes further to go get a loaf of bread. You
Yeah,
know,
I don't
how'd
really
that work
understand it.
out for you? It
I was
didn't.
I was trying to figure like, and then you're right. Like with the internet, like I got to just not even try to engage. But I was trying to figure out like, why are these people so mad at like, why are they burning Teslas and stuff? And a lot of people were saying like, well, we don't like Musk. He's a billionaire and he doesn't pay his fair share. Like, and I had your buddy David. I had him on my show. We talked a little bit about this, but does he ever talk about that? Like, because he's a billionaire. I mean, so it's like it's kind of interesting. There's like this hatred towards billionaires and success. I mean, I know some of it's Musk's politics, but I think there's just general like billionaires don't pay their fair share, and I don't know. It's just an
Well,
interesting
I don't.
discussion.
Are you there? You froze up,
Oh,
buddy.
no, I'm here.
Okay. Um. Again, you know, I have my opinions on things, but I don't. You know, I really don't think that. Uh. I really don't think that. You know, I don't like uh, expanding on, whether I like Musk or I don't like Musk. Yeah, is he a brilliant guy? Of course he is. He wouldn't be if he was, you know, whatever. I think now the fact that we have a billionaire president and we have billionaires, there's a couple billionaires in his cabinet now. Do you know what I mean? And I think now you got a lot of people that are struggling to make money or pay their rent or whatever, and they're a little uneasy about the fact that billionaires are, you know what I mean, putting their two cents
I
in.
think they always were. They were just behind the scenes more. Like you just didn't see them.
And look, dude, at the end of the day, change doesn't sit well with anybody. So
Yeah.
again, like now, do I agree with people going out and blowing up and burning Teslas? No, because you know what? At the end of the day, you're going to a Tesla dealership and you're literally burning cars. Okay, hypothetically, say you know, I see this thing coming. Oh, electric cars. I'm just a guy that has a little bit of extra money and I want to start a new business. So I want to get on this electric car thing. Whether you do the research, whether you like them, you don't. I'm just talking about the guy that started this dealership
Right.
and bought. It's just like, you know, there's a McDonald's around the corner from my house. That that's yeah, it's got a McDonald's sign on the front of it, but it's a franchise.
Yeah.
Somebody spent
True.
$500,000 to open that fucking McDonald's. That's McDonald's doesn't give a shit whether that McDonald's is there or not. But the guy that owns that McDonald's, that paid that money for the franchise, he's a regular working guy. He
Right.
gives a shit. So all I'm saying is when you're going to these dealerships or you're going and you're blowing people's cars up, that guy had to order those cars from Tesla and pay money for them, and then they get delivered to his dealership, and he's just looking at like, "Oh, okay, I can sell those cars and I can make $5,000 a car or whatever his quota is. So all you're doing is fucking with that guy. You're
Right.
not fucking with Tesla. Tesla already sold those cars to that dealership.
Yeah.
So he don't give a
Just it's
shit.
it's just weird that we can't separate, like the politics has become so ingrained we can't. I mean, I like Ted Nugent, but I like Lady Gaga too. Like I like the movie that she was in, The Star Is Born. I was like, she's so talented. Like, how could you deny? You might not like her politics, but you can't deny she's super talented. You can't deny Ted Nugent's an amazing guitar player. Like,
But you know what? That's the thing too. Like, you know, there's hypocrisy in everything. Do I like everything that Ted Nugent says? No. Do I like everything? You know, I also felt like that statement Madonna said about going and blowing up the White House or whatever the fuck it was that she said that had everybody up in arms. I didn't really think that was appropriate either. But the one thing that everybody talks about in America is like we're one of the only countries where you can speak your mind and not get in trouble for it. So this is why I say, you know, if you know so and so makes a comment that you don't like, yeah, okay, great. I don't really care for what that guy has to say. But this is why they have channel changers on a TV.
right.
Oh, I don't
Well, the
like
more
that
that
movie.
people say, they argue about it, they get riled up. I feel like you're giving that person more power,
Well,
especially in
yeah,
social media. Like,
it's like, dude, it's like, let's fucking, again, do I like what Ted Nugent says a lot of times? No, I don't dislike Ted Nugent. Uh, I mean, I thought back in the day, dude, Ted Nugent, Wang Dang Sweet Poontang, Cat Scratch Fever, just what the doctor ordered, like, Great White Buffalo, like that was fucking cool. Stranglehold. I fucking love Ted Nugent. I don't necessarily agree with all of his politics. Same with Mark Farner. I fucking love Mark Farner, but I
oh, that's
know
right.
I know Mark Farner's very, very conservative, and it's God's guns and religion. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
God's guns and country, and it's like, okay, great. You know,
Don't you also think that's kind of what's in? Like, I had Michael Sweet, and he's in the Christian Men Striper. I had him on here, and he was one of the most interesting people I've interviewed. And then I also had Doug Pinnick, who's in King's X, who's probably the opposite. He was religious, now he's gay, he's smoking pot, and they're two totally opposite people. But they're two of the most interesting people I've ever talked to, and they've sat down and had long conversations together, which I've been like, that's fucking awesome. Like, that's what's beautiful about America, I think.
that's the way it's supposed to be, but unfortunately, it's the wedge of the internet and social media has made it almost impossible. And I've been saying for years, I don't really give a shit. And then, we should probably talk about the Dead Daisies new record. But
Yeah, sorry.
the thing of it is, I think if you took any conservative human being, now I'm just going to say this. Let's take let's take religion and let's take religion out of the equation. Let's take morals out of the equation. If you sat any conservative person down in a room and sat any liberal person down in a room and said, "What do you want out of life?" I'm going to guess, maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am. But I think any conservative or any liberal want to be able to raise a healthy family. They want to work. They want to pay their taxes. They don't want to be burdened with crazy taxes. And they'd like to be able to take care of their family from a health point of view, where if something, God forbid, happened to, their kids or their wife or their husband, they're not going to lose everything they worked for paying for the medical shit. I think they would like to be able to have they don't need a fucking Ferrari. They just want a reliable running car, something that they can rely on, and they'd like to put a little money in the bank for a rainy day and take their family on a fucking vacation once in a while. That's it. So I want that. I want security for me and my family. I don't want my son who's a diabetic to have to spend $1,000 a month for insulin. I don't want my mother, my mother lost everything because she had cancer and a heart attack. Her medical bills crushed her. So I wouldn't want to see that on anybody, conservative or liberal. So I think if you sat down and just talked to average working fucking people. Now, when I say take the moral shit out of it, it's the church stuff like abortion, gay marriage, yada, 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 which is, I fall to me under the category of, what do I care if you're getting a fucking, if you feel the best thing for you is to have a kid, great. If you feel the best thing for you is to not have a kid, that's your choice, not mine. I don't give a fuck. Knock yourself out. Do what you need to do to make your life better. I'm doing what I have to do, And I think if you look at like shit like gay marriage, I don't give a fuck if you marry a man or a woman. I could care less. If you like to taste the pussy, knock yourself out. If you like to taste the balls on your chin, fucking have at it. Don't care.
That's a great way
This
to
is
put it. That
this
should
is
be
what I call staying in your fucking lane.
I
The
don't
rest of
disagree
it,
with you. Yeah,
yeah,
I like to hear people's opinions, even if I completely disagree. Though I still want to know why you think that way. Like, and like, what is your reasoning? Like, I like to hear. Like, this is great. Like hearing yours, but I like to hear everyone's different views. And I think if we actually sat down and had those conversations,
this
it
is what
feel
I'm
like,
saying, though.
yeah,
This is what I'm saying. I think if you talk to any average American conservative citizen and any average liberal conservative citizen, their complaints are the same. We have crazy astronomical prices for pharmaceuticals. Houses are cost too much. Cars cost too
right.
much. Food costs too much. Health insurance costs too much.
Yes,
We're being taxed to death. All this shit.
it's
And
the
it's
same
like
problems. It's just different solutions. A lot of it.
problems, it's just different wording. And I think if you actually talk to two opposite polar people and took the moral shit out of the equation, we want the same thing. Yes, we want a strong military. Of course we do. I don't want I don't want fucking Iran or North Korea to shoot a fucking missile in the United States. I want to be able to take care of ourselves. But at the end of the day, like we're just everybody's so preoccupied with what the other guy is doing. Oh, that offends me. Why? Why does it offend you what that person is doing? Why are you not paying attention to what you're doing? Stop it. Just let it go. I could care less if you did this interview right now in a fucking tutu. I could care less. Don't care. And maybe you are, because all I see is the Metal Sludge shirt. Maybe you're wearing a black fucking Metal Sludge shirt and wearing a fucking chick's thong underneath. I don't care. Don't care. The questions and the content of this interview is all that matters. And so my thing is for everybody, just stay in your fucking lane and stop worrying about the other guy and worry about yourself, because you can't fix somebody else unless and trust me, I don't know one perfect human being, not one.
That's
So
that's some real wisdom there. I mean, I agree. I think you're exactly right. That's
yeah, I mean, again, like I joke about it. I love Michael Sweet. I love his wife Lisa. We kid around all the time. I went to a show one time with them, and and again, like midway through the show, he stops, he does a prayer,
sure.
and so he's doing this prayer, and he's got his eyes closed, and he's asking the Lord to please take care of everybody, and you know, now, is that something I would do? No, not at all. And it was funny. I felt almost awkward. My wife will laugh. We laugh about it. But it was like right when Michael decided to go into the prayer, my wife and I were in the process of slamming a tequila shot. And I was literally sitting there like, fuck, am I supposed to wait till he's done the prayer? Or like, so, but
Yeah.
to each his own.
Right. No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I
I
love
don't
Michael.
care.
I love Doug Pinnick. I love you. Like, it's all
I
great.
love
Everybody,
those guys.
yeah,
And you know what's
everybody
great?
needs to love and hate less and love more. I mean, right?
It's not even that, dude. It's just stay in your fucking lane. Stop being
Yeah.
so condescending. Stop being so critical. Stop worrying about what the other guy has, and just do your own thing, man. I wrote that fucking song title in 1999. Do your own fucking thing. And if you read the lyrics, it's exactly about what we're going through now. I'm like, you like, you know, you like champagne, I like Jack and Coke. You know what I mean? It's like whatever, but I can still sit down and talk with you. We could still have a conversation. As long as you're not an asshole to me, I ain't going to be an asshole to you. Period.
Yeah. That's a great
And
philosophy. I wish everyone could have that.
yeah, it's just, but we can't. And that's the fucking part that's frustrating. And it's just really, really frustrating. But hey, kids, did I tell you that the Dead Daisies have a new record called Looking for Trouble? It's out May 30th, and it's a blues record. How do you like that segue, buddy?
Great segue. Yeah, no, I do like the new record, and I think that's the one thing with music is that to tie this all together is I feel like music does bring people together of all different backgrounds. That Michael Sweet and Doug Pinnick hanging out on the Monsters of Rock cruise, chatting, and when you go to a show, when you go to Dead Daisies, we're not. Hey, we're only conservatives, only liberals. No, everybody go to Dead Daisies. Everybody, let's leave the politics at the door. Let's just rock out and listen
Yeah,
to
and the
listen at home if you don't want to go to the concert. But
bottom line of it is that's the beauty of music.
I love music. Yeah,
Like
music does bring us together, I think.
it literally, regardless of whether it's a festival in fucking England for 100,000 people, or I'm playing at the Roxy on Sunset Boulevard for 500 people. It's 500 people, and if you look at the statistics of who voted for who, we're split right down the middle. So I'll say 250 people in that room, and the other 250 are completely opposite of each other. But when they get in the room, all they care about is having fun, singing along to the fucking idiots that are standing on stage playing the music, and they're just having a good time. And then
Yeah,
after they walk out the door, they could go back to fighting again. But for that 2.5, 3 hours, it's just a love fest, fun fest, and it's just rock and roll.
that's awesome.
And
Do you guys have shows lined up right now?
yeah, we're going to I don't know the exact date. It's on thedeaddaisies.com.
Okay, I'm on there right now. I'm looking to. I'm trying to see if you're coming to Phoenix because I'd love to see you. I don't think I've ever seen you with the Daisies.
That's only partial dates.
Okay,
I know they're putting stuff together for next year, and even this year we're adding some things.
yeah,
But the blues record's coming out the 30th. We're still even kind of promoting the Light 'em Up record as well.
yeah.
But I'm sure at some point we'll be doing some more dates in America.
Yeah, because I think I missed the last time. I think the show was canceled or I missed it, but it was like you and comedian Don Jameson, or no,
No,
because you weren't in the band when it
that was with Glenn.
that
Yeah.
was with Glenn. I think you guys, but I think they came and I feel like the show got canceled for some reason. But yeah, it'd be cool if you did another like kind of like a like a package tour. I like those kind of like package shows where you can knock out a few different bands, especially if they're all good and stuff. It's
Well,
awesome.
it's I would love to do that. I think when they did that run with I forget who they went out with.
Was it the Black Moods? Because they're from Arizona.
Yes.
I
Well,
love them.
we did some shows as well, but for some reason we never got into Phoenix. The last time we were in Phoenix with me, we actually played
I went to your solo shows at a tiny little club. It was awesome. It was so cool.
yeah,
You
I
see
did
it?
that, but we did we played a tailgating party at the
Oh.
Cardinals game.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because didn't
Yeah.
I think you performed at one of the Cardinals games too at one point. Like maybe that
That,
was a
that,
long time ago.
that's what I'm talking about.
Okay. Yeah.
It was during the Make Some Noise tour.
Yeah.
So it's been
Yeah.
a while. It's been
Yeah.
like since 2016 or 17 because we played the parking lot. We did that, and then they invited us in, and we sat in a box and we watched the Cardinals game, and they were playing "Make Some Noise" in the stadium.
Okay. Yeah. And you guys have you have a new drummer now, right? What happened to Tishy?
Tishy hasn't been with the band since it was right before. Again, I wasn't privy to the conversations, but we just got word that Brian was going to do the Gene Simmons
Step on
shows.
a
dicka.
Is that you or me?
Yeah, that's me. Adika, or your buddy Adika's calling me. How do I turn this off? I don't know how to.
Yeah, that's who texted me when I was doing the thing with you.
Yeah, yeah. He was saying he goes. Look, it wasn't John that spilled the beans or whatever. He still won't tell me who it was, but yeah, that was an interesting one. So
Well, and it was weird because that's why we have two drummers basically on the Evan Marty Fredrickson's son.
oh
When we were developing the songs for Light 'em Up, Evan was helping us map everything out, and we were going to bring somebody in to play the drums. So we brought in Sarah, but as it turned out, we kind of went back and listened to everything that Evan had done on the demos, and we're like, well, that's fucking great. Let's just keep those drums.
okay,
And then Sarah played on the blues record.
okay.
Yeah.
She's gonna be the one that goes on tour though.
No.
Oh,
Tommy Clufetos is playing with us. He's been with the band since well, we actually okay, so it's weird. Brian didn't play on the Revolution record either. He did Midnight Moses and Evil. And then we had to have this guy named Jackie Barnes down in Australia play on the Revolution record. But then Brian couldn't do the first part of the tour with Kiss either. So Tommy Clufetos played with us in 2015. Then when I left, I know Dean was there for a minute. Then he left and went back to Journey. Tommy Clufetos came back in and played with.
okay.
He did his thing. So when we realized that, Brian was back doing his Gene Simmons stuff, manager just called Tommy and said, "Hey, dude, we're doing a record right now. We just finished a record. You want to go on tour? So Tommy came in. Thing I love about Tommy is we just send him the music and he learns it and he comes in and we just run through it a few times and we go, you know? Um, so Tommy's done the last couple tours with us. He's playing with us, and you know, we had Evan and Sarah play on the other two records.
Nice. Okay. Well, cool. Yeah. So the one record is out now, and then the blues record's coming out, and then shows to be hopefully coming soon to America, because right now it's just Europe. So
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
I think we're doing England and Europe. It's a bunch of festival dates and yeah, and some shows over there. So
I'll put the
looking forward to
website
it.
in the show notes. And awesome. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for doing this and taking the extra time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
All good, buddy. Thank you.
Okay. See ya. Bye-bye.
Every topic, one of a kind. From the rockers to the wise men.